Okay, in this video I want to talk about diffusion. Okay, I'm sure you've heard of the word diffusion. Well, it's basically the movement of particles of a substance from one area of higher concentration of the substance to an area of lower concentration of the substance, okay? So movement of particles of substance from area of higher concentration to lower concentration. Okay, that's the definition of diffusion. Okay, very common example we see every day almost. So perfume, when I spray perfume, right, in one corner of the room, it makes its way to another, it diffuses to another corner of the room, right? So perfume, other examples when you walk on the street and walk past someone smoking, right? The smell is very, isn't so powerful initially, but then as you walk past, as you approach the person, it gets more powerful. That's because the particles are diffusing, right? They're moving about. It takes place, so diffusion takes place in liquids and gases, okay? When the particles have enough energy to move around, right? So in the context of digestion, so after eating, there are high concentrations of glucose, right? So after eating, let's say you're eating some bread, obviously in your mouth there's a lot of, the bread's obviously in your mouth, right? There's a lot of it going on. So there's a high concentration of glucose, okay, in small intestine, let's say. In the bloodstream, however, you get a low concentration of these molecules, the glucose molecules, right? So when you're eating, this is metabolism, right? When you're eating, in your intestine, say in your body parts, body organs, sorry, there's a high concentration of the glucose molecules. But in your bloodstream, there's a lower concentration, right? It hasn't yet metabolized. So when you're eating, that's what's going on. Okay, now most of the molecules move around by diffusion in your body, right? From your small intestine into your blood, right? So most of molecules move by diffusion. Okay, so from the small intestine through to blood, okay, through to your bloodstream. So that is diffusion in your blood, in your digestive system. So just to further explain, so basically the flow of blood in your capillaries. Okay, remember capillaries are found in the villi. So the flow of blood quickly carries digested materials away. Okay, so you always have a higher concentration in your small intestine and lower in your blood. So therefore, diffusion occurs. Okay, versus, I should put versus small intestine. Okay, so obviously, to get efficient diffusion, you need a high surface area, right, of the villi, and the volume to get some good diffusion, right? So you need high surface area, and I'll explain that soon, plus volume ratio. Okay, so think of it as a ratio, right? So surface area on top of the fraction volume on the bottom. You need this to be big, ratio to be big for efficient diffusion. Diffusion. And let me explain this more. So I now want to talk about obtaining water, right? Obtaining water. How do we obtain water? Okay, through osmosis. There's a process that's called osmosis. Okay, it's basically the movement of a solid solvent across a semi-permeable membrane toward a high concentration. Okay, what does this mean? Well, let me explain. Okay. So basically, absorption. First, let me write that. Absorption of water occurs via osmosis in large intestine. Right. So remember, your large intestines are responsible for expelling all that waste, and water comes out, obviously, right, when you go to the toilet. So osmosis. Let me just let me draw a diagram to break all this down and make it simple to understand what all the different words mean. Okay. Now, let's say you have a container. Let's say you have this semi-permeable material. Let me explain what that means. Semi-permeable, membrane. Okay, membrane is basically like a sheet or a piece of rubber or something that's thin, right? Semi-permeable. Permeable means allows something to go through. Semi means only some of it goes through. Okay, so let's say you have sugar molecules here, and you've got water molecules here, little dots. And let's say some water molecules can go through. So these arrows mean that the water molecules can go through. But no sugar can go through, obviously, because they're small. Let's say there are small gaps, right? So osmosis, okay, actually allows for, so let's say the semi-permeable membrane was actually a bit bigger. It allows for the sugar to go through and meet up with the water molecules, right? So here's what you get, an uneven distribution. So as nutrients leave the small intestine, so from small intestine, let's say that's the small intestine. So from the small intestine, the large intestine, okay, this occurs, so osmosis is what allows this to occur, right? It allows nutrients to pass through. Actually, you know what? Let me call this, actually my mistake. That's the small intestine on the left here. That is a large intestine on the right here, right? So the left is small intestine, right is large intestine. So it's basically a good model. It's a really good conceptual model, actually, to show how nutrients can flow. So the sugar can flow thanks to this semi-permeable material. And as you know, the large intestine contains water, and the water can flow out. Okay. Also, salt can flow out. So you get a higher concentration of particles in the large intestine, right? Eventually, so water diffuses towards the particle-rich blood, right over here. And that's what I want to talk about in this lesson. So diffusion, as I mentioned, is where particles move from a substance of higher concentration to a lower concentration. I gave the example of perfume, spraying perfume, how eating can make nutrients flow from the small intestine to the large intestine via diffusion. And I talked about osmosis as well, how water flows from the small intestine to the large intestine.